Do you know what?
They're £1 each. Because I put a lot
Can
of
I
effort
read it all before I decide whether it's worth £1?
Yes, that's why it
Have
says...
you got any Amazon reviews?
Amazon reviews? No, I have not. I do on my
Bless
books.
you, how much time did you spend on me?
Enough. You're blocking the camera. Yes, you are blocking
Yeah, get your big head out the way.
I'm very sorry.
Blocking my camera.
Has that been there all the time? No.
See, my favourite girl is here today.
Yes, she is.
All of you are watching. My name is Wendell Daniel, and welcome to Street Mike and my new wife, Rational Female.
That's right.
Rational Feminism.
Rational anti-feminism.
Anti-feminism, because a few months ago, Hattoon was my wife. She eloped, she didn't come, and this woman appeared on the scene, Rational Female. So, what time did you call this? You told me you will be here at 1:30.
You loafer. You're worse than Boris Johnson.
Well, you see, Wendell, the reason why I was late is because today we have come with a little bit of a thing here. We've got a collection of work that I have been working on, and this is effectively outlining. A gentleman over there has already purchased one. We're selling them today for £1, and what they are outlining women's advocacy, but also all of the problems with feminism.
Hold on, before you can give your spill, why are you charging? Why are you making a profit out of feminism?
Because it took me a lot of time and energy to type them up, and largely ink is expensive, so really it's to cover the cost.
Hold on, it takes me 5 hours to come here, and I do this for free. Does that mean I can charge you using your arguments?
Not a relevant question, Wendell.
Answer it.
No.
Why not? Are you going scared? Chicken.
Say in 1500s medieval Europe,
Yeah.
do you believe there were any good things about the roles of women that we have abandoned in 21st century feminist Britain?
So definitely there's a good case to be made for that in medieval England, and not just in medieval England but in many human societies. You know, there was that sense of men and women working together, and definitely during medieval England, you know, women typically worked alongside men in fields. They often, there were women who worked as nurses, women who worked as governesses, and that's definitely was a positive thing. I suppose the only problem is that, you know, we want to think about the present. You know, we obviously cannot return to the past, but it's definitely a good case to learn from the past, to learn from what worked in the past, to learn from what was actually helping men, what was helping women. And if you look at, you know, for example, medieval England or other societies, there was that sense of women and men having that unity. You know, it wasn't like men were better than women or women were better than men. And that is something which feminism really has kind of neglected, really, and really failed to really care about. It's really failed to, you know, care about that sense of women and men being united effectively and working together and not being, you know, torn apart.
Okay. And what provided that sort of good work ethic of men and women being working together? What provided that cooperative spirit, and why is it now being lost?
The thing is, I think that was always there. I think this is actually an inequality between males and females. You know, my whole argument is that men and women are supposed to work together. We're supposed to be complementary, and I really can't think of any real society where that was not the case. I mean, you do have, you know, you could say oppressive political regimes that do exploit people, but these are not really, you know, these are politics, these are political regimes, and these regimes usually, they're there, they exploit people, but they're not necessarily, how shall I say, representative of the average state of the average man and women. You know, men and women are supposed to work together. We're not really supposed to be fighting. I mean, if anything, men are meant to compete with men, women are meant to compete with women, but we're not really supposed to compete with each other. Like, you do usually have, you know, men competing with other men for women, women competing with women for male attention, but the idea of men and women being competitors really does seem to go against our innate humanity.
Okay. And so, my question would be, what purpose, what objective does feminism have in seeking to sort of uproot this natural complementarity between men and women? what's the objective behind it? Why do it?
So the main problem with feminism is that it was really created by women who were very angry, very lonely, very bitter, very anti-men, and their goal was really they believed that women were fundamentally oppressed by a patriarchal society, and what they did was they distorted the roles that males and females are supposed to play together. So instead of treating men as people who build systems, who, you know, create all these good things for women, they decided to turn around and say, well, actually men are oppressing women. And, you know, it's obviously a lot of sexism, a lot of hostility towards men, a lot of misandry. And I think the main goal of feminism has always been to turn men and women against each other. That's what I maintain as feminism being about. It's really about dismantling that sense of unity and bonding between the male and female, and instead saying that men and women should be fighting, that we should be hating each other, that if a man wants to marry you, he's oppressing you, that wanting to take a man's last name is a form of oppression. That's really the stance that I maintain feminism.
For societies to function, women and men must work together. I like your outfit. Hot. Thanks.
What are you guys doing here?
We're anti-feminists. We believe feminism is trash.
Why?
Well, we have a pamphlet if you'd like to have a look through. This is some information about...
Why do you think feminism is trash? Why?
So first of all, feminism is rooted in the assumption that women are oppressed by a patriarchal society.
Do you not think we have been though?
No,
as women?
absolutely not.
Why?
Because if you look all throughout human history, there have been so many female politicians, so many female queens.
Up there?
Yeah, if you stop...
Okay, so if you think about the UK, if you think about our female PMs,
there have been all these female queens, and also the problem is that feminists view this on the basis that they claim women are being oppressed as housewives and mothers, and we think this is a massive disservice to many women who enjoy being with their children, to many women who enjoy being wives.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think there's a difference. I think in this day and age there are a lot of women who choose to live at home, be with their children, raise their children on their own. They can choose to do that. I think a lot of it is about choice. And I think if you do look back throughout history, especially in this country, there has been a history of oppression for women.
Don't you think there's also been a history of oppression for men in that same way?
Of course.
So then, by that logic, would you not say that feminism doesn't make sense because it claims that men have privilege?
I don't personally think it's equal. That's all. Because I think that men have their own struggles, right? So like men
So if men have their own struggles, then why should we promote feminism, which doesn't acknowledge or care about men's struggles?
No, but feminism does.
No, it doesn't.
To me, it does.
Maybe to you, but to the average... Well, if you look at men in the men's rights movement, for example, the reason why the men's rights movement was created is that a lot of men feel like they are not being heard, that their voices are not being listened to. And if you look at the entire scope of men's rights activism, the reason why it's come about is because men specifically feel that the feminist movement is not respecting them. For example, if you have a look here, see, there are cases of...
Show me.
Yeah, so men's issues. So, for example, there are issues like paternity fraud. We have them black and white as well. So there are issues like paternity fraud and male domestic violence. But the problem is that feminism is not doing anything to help. You might do,
Do you think, if you get it down back to its root, if you get it back down to its root and you really think about it, do you think it's the feminist movement that's causing that? Or is it the patriarchy that's causing that? If you think about it, right, just listen to me for 1 second. The patriarchy is something that's been upheld for hundreds and hundreds of years, right? The patriarchy expects men to be strong. It expects men to stand up, to be the breadwinner of the family, right? That's what the patriarchy is. But that's the patriarchy. That's not the feminists. That's the patriarchy. And I think with feminism, in which I'm a very strong, proud, loud feminist, you can't, like, you'd never blame what men go through on that level on feminism. You blame it on the patriarchy, because the patriarchy is the thing that tries to uphold these things that men have to stand to. And I think men stand up as a massive issue. Suicide rates, mental health issues within men, it's sky high at the moment. It's awful, it's terrible. But that's not because of feminism. That's because of the patriarchy.
But I'll ask you, what has feminism done to tackle this problem?
The real feminism, right? What feminism really means, okay? And I understand that obviously in the media, all throughout the world, you get people that say like, oh, okay, we put ourselves above men, which I don't think is right at all. I think feminists that I know, and myself, we campaign. But I mean, I'm studying journalism right now, and I'm training to be a journalist. feminist, I think you can be a feminist, and I think you can also advocate for men's rights in that sense of mental health.
So first of all, the notion of patriarchy theory is actually a concept that's rooted in Marxism, and it was devised by Marx and Engels as effectively a way to claim that the man was effectively a patriarch, and that the role of the man was to be an oppressor of a woman.
Yeah.
So the entire concept of patriarchy is that the role of a man is that men's roles in society are to oppress women. Now, do you not see how that is immediately creating an antagonism between males and females, because it's teaching women that a man's role is to be an oppressor of women?
100%.
But do you not see how that goes in very direct contradiction to then supporting men's rights? Because how can you say that you support men's rights while simultaneously turning around and telling them that you're the problem because you are upholding this oppressive male-dominated patriarchy?
Whenever I say like, oh, men are the problem, I don't actually mean men, general man. I don't think that they are the problem.
But don't you see how that would make a lot of men feel upset? But don't you see how a lot of men would feel very...
men are the problem and patriarchy is the problem, two different things.
Yeah, which I wouldn't say that really.
But when feminists say patriarchy, you might not, but when feminists say patriarchy, unfortunately, a lot of the times they do mean men. Because, well, yes.
But that's not true.
Well,
the patriarchy is upheld by loads of people within society. Because it's what
no, the entire concept of patriarchy theory is rooted in the concept that a man is an oppressor of women, which creates antagonism towards men, which undermines the role of men, which undermines what men do for society.
What do you want to gain from what you're doing right now? What do you think is the solution?
It's on the first page. What we want is to have
what do you personally want?
First of all, I want to destroy
What's your name, my love?
Zarina Batshaw.
Sorry?
Zarina, nice to meet you.
Zarina, it's lovely to meet you. I'm Charlotte.
Before you go, Charlotte, can I ask you a question, because your friends want to leave?
Okay.
You said you're a budding journalist. As a budding journalist, what is your perception of what you're seeing and hearing here today? How would you write your story?
I think, well, how I write my story is a whole different thing, but I think seeing it on the surface, I've obviously been out, I'm drinking my wine, like I'm going to London Del Rey, I'm out on a fun night out, a fun day out. I think everyone is completely open to their own opinions, and I'm so willing to converse, like we and I don't think this has been an argument right now, like I think we're just talking, and I'm listening to other people's opinions. I think it's really important to remember the history, and I think it's really, really important to remember the ways that women have suffered in this country within the last 100 or so years. I think we've got to remember that, and I think it is very easy to blame the feminist movement for things that aren't necessarily caused by the feminist movement. And I think I do think the patriarchy, which doesn't necessarily mean all men are bad and all women are good. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is the institution of the patriarchy is something that generally means that women are the underdog.
Excellent.
The feminist movement doesn't mean that we hate men. It really doesn't. It means we want men to be exempt from the patriarchy. You know what I mean? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I regard myself as a feminist. So I just think if feminism is equal rights for men and women, I'm totally down with that. So there is an element. Well, exactly. So there is, there's definitely a problem with it when man thinks in elements, and that is an issue. I mean, but no, absolutely, equal rights for men and women. That's our certain fact.
And I think it's very demonized, in the media. Anyway, I've got to go. I've got to go see Lana Del Rey. Love, it was really nice to meet you. I really enjoyed talking to you. Okay, I get what you're saying, I really do. And I hope you just kind of listen a little bit, like what I've said, like it's not about us, girl. We've got to unite, alright? We've got to unite. Yeah. Okay?
Watch out for being in the media.
What's your name?
There are many misconceptions about feminism. Many people believe that feminism is about giving women choice and equal rights. However, if you talk to real feminists, they will tell you that very clearly it is is about liberating women from the patriarchy on the basis that women are oppressed by men. This idea that feminism just means giving women choice is a lie. Choice feminism is not feminism. This is effectively just classical liberalism.
You need more Barry White in your life, less third-class literature.
It's very, very frustrating. I have no opinion. It's very, very frustrating for women and men who tirelessly try and speak out about feminism to constantly be shut down by arguments that are effectively, while they come in with well intentions, are dreadfully misinformed. And the reason why we reject these is because there's been a lot of propaganda that has been pumped out largely ever since the 1990s that is lying to men and women and telling everybody that feminism just means equal rights. However, there's much evidence to support the fact that feminism does not mean equal rights. First of all, as said earlier, if feminism was about equal rights, look, scratch that. If you look at the etymology of the word of feminism, it very clearly means fem, meaning women, and ism, meaning ism.
Feminism is very superficial because, for example, one of the key catchphrases of feminism, the personal is political, and this was about wanting to politicize everything. This is a feminist action, that's a feminist action, it's wanting to turn everything into politics. But it's very superficial because feminism, the whole thing was really about saying that they're being oppressed, but these women, they were all the most privileged women in society. I really failed to see how these women were being oppressed. Like, I read this very good book recently called Is There Anything Good About Men? By a fellow named Roy Bamiester, and he was basically, what? I'm talking to this guy, that's why I read this good book, and he was basically saying about how there's a lot of areas in human history where men have not been appreciated, and it's like, the fact is that a lot of the society, because of this gender-centric bullshit, is kind of ignoring, you know, a lot of men, and a lot of men are very unhappy about it. The thing is as well, because we do need to be pro-women, and you know what I don't like? A lot of anti-feminists as well, they put down women, and this is wrong. We shouldn't be putting down women. You're right, mate. Sorry? Well, a lot of her theories, that's what led to this stuff, you know, the second sex, because a lot of the... Well, I haven't actually read the second sex, but I do know of it, and actually because she inspired Betty Friedan, and a lot of her arguments were, yes, she was saying that women were a second-class citizens, that gender was a social construct.
Position women as others to themselves.
And it's complete nonsense. Well, it's complete nonsense.
That's not an argument.
Sorry?
What's your reason that that's nonsense?
Well, it's nonsense because what she was doing is she was creating this idea that men fundamentally view women as the other, which affect what do you? I've got two men here who disagree with you.
I think it's more nowadays from what
the question you asked.
Yeah, what do you mean as the other? I mean, we are men and women, first of all. We are men and
other in every sense of the word.
Well, what do you mean?
Well, there's no evidence to support that. There's no evidence to support men other women.
Okay, is this psychology?
Would you like to get one, sir? It's £1.
Physically ordered. Like, I don't understand what the other is a very wide thing, you know? So I have well, it's a very easy word to use because it doesn't specify anything.
Yeah, okay,
so it's very
but no one ever defines the state. Exactly. The state is the one who pushes feminism. No, they don't. Absolutely.
Oh, do you want to be on camera?
Feminism is supported in the news,
no.
In the politics,
that's not actual feminism.
In the whole system supports feminism.
People just saying, yeah, I'm pro-women, it's not actual feminism. They're not quoting from philosophical works about feminism is. They're just but you understand what I'm saying? The women have become so crazy and aggressive. No.
So, sir, effectively, my argument is that...
We were in the middle of the conversation. We were making an inductive argument.
What's
an inductive argument, bro?
Yeah, so effectively, because I've studied a lot of feminist theory, and a lot of feminist theory is rooted first of all in the idea that women are second-class citizens, that men have created systems to oppress women. And my argument is that this is a lie, it's a distortion of male and female relationships.
that all throughout human societies, there have been various cultures, and in these cultures, men and women have worked together in their different roles, and these roles have been complementary, and this differs based on society. For example, there's been some societies where women have been warriors, such as the Scythians, the Dahomey women, there have been the Ashanti women, there have been societies like during medieval England, you know, women would often work alongside their husbands in the fields. There were women who worked as governesses, women who worked as nuns. There have also been a lot of female queens. And I would tell you to have a look at this gentleman's got a copy now, but this is the pamphlets I have, which talks about being pro-women.
Are you against feminism? Are you?
I think he's pro-feminism.
You love feminism.
What I'm saying to you is, what you're saying now is, oh, if I go back to 1940s America and I find a black man in a position of power,
it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. No, it's not, because relationships.
Therefore the discrimination.
Because
no, let me talk. Let me talk. Let me make my argument now. So your logical parallel is that, oh, women were in X position of power, women in this position, therefore that means that feminism is not true. It means that women were not repressed and misogyny is not a problem. This is not true. We can find many black men, many Asian men in all sorts of colonial states, and in America where segregation still exists, holding positions of power, important positions. It does not mean that racism has failed to exist, nor does it mean it does not matter. So I don't really get your argument at all. It doesn't have any basis.
Well, it does have a basis because, first of all, racial relations are not at all the same as relationships with men and women. Well, because it's two completely different things. We're talking about women and men.
We're talking about social categories and how we treat them in relation to other things. So it's not just analogous.
Well, it is actually, because it's not the same, because first of all, African Americans were engaged in genuine oppression. They were enslaved by white Americans. There's no evidence whatsoever to suggest that women have ever been oppressed by men.
Yeah, because the New World Order is
There's no evidence. There's no evidence to suggest.
All right, collapse. One person at a time. I can't treat the people.
The New World Order is coming and trying to divide us and make men weak.
Men and women are supposed to work together, and what feminists are doing is that they've turned them into two categories.
I don't believe it's the feminists.
No, but they have, because your arguments, you're talking about people like Simone de Beauvoir. She was one of the people who created this idea, who perpetuated this narrative that women are second-class citizens, but this narrative is a false narrative that is distorted. Yes, it is. Okay, name me one evidence. Name me one piece of evidence that supports that women have ever been oppressed.
By what year could a woman get a bank card without having to get her husband's permission?
Well, actually, there was something known as coverture, in which women were effectively, when a man and woman got married, her identity became assumed by her husband. But this wasn't to oppress the woman, it was to protect the woman, because when a man and a woman got married, they became one unit. It wasn't about oppressing women.
Can you tell me what is a husband stitch?
Pardon?
What is a husband stitch?
What's
a husband stitch?
A husband stitch?
Yep.
I don't know about it.
Okay. Well, a husband stitch is very simply, historically, when women would give birth, a husband would request the doctors to stitch her vagina up extra tight for his pleasure. This is This is a very common procedure up until recent times.
Okay, what's recent? What do you mean by
a lot of doctors in the past did very, very.
Women's vagina in the
Yes, but a lot of
I
doctors
lived in the
in the
90s.
past.
What are you talking about?
And that means what? You lived in
That
the
means
90s.
that no one ever talked about
So
it.
you lived in
It
the
didn't-
90s, so tell me, what did Ronald Reagan eat for dinner in 1991? What does that follow? Like, oh, I lived there, therefore I know it. That doesn't follow in any sense.
A lot of medical practitioners use very, very, very obscene practices in the past.
Well, that when you're denying the need for feminism, you're also denying the importance of what we call misogynoir. You know, are you familiar with misogynoir?
So what you are talking are all critical theory, cultural Marxist-based views.
Yeah, I'm Marxist, that's fine. I'm asking you, what is misogynoir?
These are not relevant. These are
Yes,
all
it
based
is
in
relevant.
theory.
This
No,
is-
because they are all based in theory.
It
There is
doesn't
no
matter,
evidence.
we're talking about theory. I'm asking you, what is misogynoir? If you don't know, I can answer the question.
So misogynoir, yes, effectively this idea that there is a form of oppression against black women.
Exactly. Do you think that's false?
Well, the premise of misogynoir is again rooted in critical theory, which is rooted in cultural Marxism,
That's what I
which is
mean.
a premise which I do not agree with.
Okay, why?
Well, because there's no evidence.
For what?
Well, first of all, black women have actually been historically very much left out of feminism. That's why there was a woman.
I agree.
So what has feminism actually done for black women?
I agree. I absolutely agree. I have no disagreement that feminism hasn't aided the black woman. And this is where we understand in critical race theory, the same way we understand in feminism, that the group itself is the one that is responsible for its own liberation.
What has critical race theory done to empower black people? Do you want to stand in front of the camera?
Stand over here if you want.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, yeah, listen. So what I'm saying is, very simply, when we look at examples of where critical race theory has been used to empower the black community and the white.
How has critical race theory empowered the black community?
Well, the Black Panthers, for example, they
were
were
not
feeding people, they were educating people, they were
sure,
armed.
but they came before the critical race
It
theory.
doesn't matter, they were on the same critical. We can find evidence of critical race theory going back to Harold Goodwin.
They were
Goodwin
coming
Woodson.
at a specific time
In
when
1933.
African Americans were actually being oppressed.
No, listen, I want to make it very clear. Critical race theory is not a new idea. And I'm going to use the title of this book to give it proper credence, but I do not use this word in a normal day-to-day use. The book by Harold Goodwin Woodson, The Miseducation of the Negro, 1933. Very
So you're
early
talking about race.
example.
I'm not talking about race.
Yeah, but
I'm
race
talking about
and
men
gender
women.
are
No, they
social
not.
categories by which we decide what is their relation
But they're
to the
not the
other.
same. It's not the same thing. You're
It
talking
is.
about
We're
race.
talking
I'm
about
talking about
social
male and
categories.
female.
We're talking
No,
about
you're
power
talking
in
about
social
something else.
categories.
I'm talking about men and women.
You asked me what did critical race theory do for the black community, I'm answering.
Okay, but there's no evidence
That's
really.
right, so the organisation and the understanding that critical race theory gives helps the community and the group, the one that is placed in other, understand that they must liberate themselves. The black man must be liberated by the black man.
But you keep
women must be
talking about
liberated by
race.
the
I'm
woman.
not talking about race. I'm
Yeah,
talking about
I'm
men
saying
and
there's no
Because
disanalogy.
women own property, okay, so we're talking
Yes.
earlier about, so for example, there's something known as coverture, and coverture was not about a man oppressing a woman, it was that when a man and a woman got married,
It wasn't about, that's what it did in practice, that was
no,
the
it did
actual
not.
thing it
No,
achieved.
it did
Yes.
not. It
When
was
women
about
couldn't leave marriages,
woman, well, neither could men. It was about
That's
a
not
woman
true.
and a man working together.
Who told you men couldn't leave
because
marriages?
coverture made them both one unit. This was about partnership.
Where's your empiric? Where's your empiric that men couldn't leave marriages historically? Where's your empiric for that?
Where's your empiric that women couldn't leave marriages?
My dad's a twice divorced man and he was born in 1948.
But again, the thing is as well is that when people got married, so for example, if you look at England, for example, England was a Christian society,
Yeah.
and with Christianity came the idea of complementarianism. And effectively this was the idea that a man and a woman were supposed to be complementary. And again, you have things like, for example, coverture, which meant that when a woman and a man got married, and also as well, marriage placed the responsibility on the man, because it was the man's duty
Yeah, we
to
agree.
provide
This
and
is
care
the
for his
problem with
woman.
capitalism.
But we're not talking about capitalism.
We are, like we're talking about our whole
Premise-
social structure though. We can't
No,
just
we're not.
disanalogy, we can't just throw away
No,
different
because
parts
now
and
you're going
mix
into
the thing.
intersectionality, which is a big problem. Because when you have
Not a big
it
problem.
is a problem. Because when you try and intersect everything, you don't end up in looking at things individually. Because now you're trying to talk about race,
We can look at
class.
all these things
I'm
individually.
talking about sex, about males
Yes,
and
and there's no
females.
distinction in talking about the way in which
Catholic
social...
crucifix beads.
No, these are Buddhists. No. But listen, what I'm saying to you is there is no disanalogousness here. When we're talking about how society formulates power structures, superstructures of power of race, gender, class, there's no disanalogy in how we understand these things.
No, because again, you're trying to mix things up, and this is the
No,
problem
I'm
with
saying they're not
intersectionality.
disanalogous.
Well, they are, because actually, what you're doing is you're trying to mix everything up rather than look at
That's a
one thing.
claim. I'm saying they are not disanalogous. Respond to what I'm saying. How are they disanalogous? What makes them unacceptable as an example?
Because you're trying to mix things up.
That's not
Like,
an
you know, for
argument.
example,
That's not an argument.
right now, right, we have this trans thing, right? So rather than looking at the issues of women, we now have trans women.
I don't
and it's trying to
disagree.
mix this up together.
Yeah, I don't
rather than
disagree,
looking
but
at
remember, you're not a Marxist. I'm a Marxist. I believe in the spectacle of the media and how they direct us towards certain things.
Why?
Because that's simply true. We can simply observe
How can you believe it when it doesn't make any sense?
For example, historically, that's a hard argument. Anyway, back to some actual, warranted claims here. When we look at, for example, the diamond industry. Now, in the 1800s, the head of all the diamond companies got together and they frank out lied and said, hey, there's
So you're
less
bringing
diamonds.
things off tangent.
No, please.
I've been
please.
talking about males and females.
Class,
and you're talking
please,
about something
I'm
else
saying
now.
some things now, right? So very simply, they all came together and said, hey, there's less diamonds in the world. You have to now pay more for these diamonds. They also propagated through films the idea that you can only propose with a diamond. You know, historically, before 100 years ago, people proposed emeralds, rubies, sapphires.
So I'm talking about feminism, you're talking about diamonds
It's going to get back to the point. If you just
And
have
he's
some
actually
patience.
wrong. I'm a jeweler and I can just prove what he's saying.
Okay, we can go there.
There were lots of diamonds in the ground, right? And he created an artificial scarcity.
Scarcity means that the value is higher, that's true. But the reason that people started buying more diamonds and that they became more expensive is the beers promoting the idea that you should pay 2 or 3 months of your wage for an engagement
Yes,
ring.
I'm agree. That's not in disagreement with what I'm
That
saying.
is in disagreement with what you
They
say.
literally put in films that
You say that the reason is because they lied that there was less diamonds. That's not the
That is
case.
true. That's how they inflated the price.
incorrect.
It's how they
No,
inflated the
no.
price.
Okay, sir, make your point.
They just figure out the way to sell diamonds for more
Yeah, and that's
expensive.
the point.
And then you said
We are
specifically
talking
that
about
they lied that
feminism,
there was
not
not enough
diamonds.
diamonds. Like even the diamond is your basic life necessity.
He's a
You say you're
Marxist.
Marxist, but what diamond has to do with you?
Oh yeah,
You're Marxist.
yeah, going on there again.
It is. You're denying yourself. You're making arguments that have no meaning to even what you believe.
It's about the spectacle.
I do she'd like you. Can I ask a question? So this is very interesting. Can we get back to how this is linked to women?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No.
What it is he's a Marxist, and his entire framework is based on the idea, ideas like critical race theory and intersectionality, and all these ideas are complete nonsense,
And that the
they're
Joe Schmo
rooted in
deserves
theory.
diamonds.
Sorry?
And that the Joe Schmo deserves diamonds because they're the rarest, so everyone should have access to it.
They don't really help.
Ridiculous.
All these theories are based on lies.
And you think capitalism is helping us watch?
Yes, capitalism. If it wasn't for capitalism, you would not be able to have your clothes.
That's not
you would not
true.
be able to work.
That's not
you would be
true.
working in
None
a
of that's
field
true.
for some
Freedom, right? It's
solid.
free assistance.
No. So you're going to say
It's
something like,
capitalism
oh,
that gives people market opportunities.
Exactly, it is
One third
capitalism.
of the
You
earth
as
is
a
starving
man
under capitalism.
living in the Western society, anti-capitalism, when you have been given every privilege afforded to you by capitalism.
She's starving right now under capitalism.
Yeah, but you said you're blaming
Which are the
Well, what's wrong with capitalism? It has its flaws. Yeah, capitalism has
Capitalism, you can get
flaws.
rich.
Yes.
Communism,
You can't.
you can't. Socialism, you can get rich, but there should be no poor.
I
There's a
suppose-
difference between socialism
So we
and
don't have a
There is, I agree. But I support what's known as social capitalism, which is a social market.
I'm on your
Social
side.
market.
You disagree with
Right.
me.
Well, I am. This guy's kind of I have
a million people
I mean, I'm not like a feminist or anything. A lot of people argue
Well, it literally
Feminism is the most anti-woman thing in the world. Literally, if you're a woman and you disagree with a feminist, you're an enemy. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that she's a woman. So they have nothing to do
What's the difference
with
between women advocate and a feminist? What's the difference?
a women's advocate. As a women's advocate, I support women. I support women. Should I have a look at my one? That one time I can read. Yeah, so I'm a women's advocate. I believe that women should be I believe that women should empower themselves.
This guy's sitting up in my face.
Society, and it teaches that women are a victim class, and it pits women and men against each other because it turns us into two classes.
And it's just kind of
rather
gone
than
off
having
to a
us
whole other
working
thing.
together. Now, I'm trying to tell this gentleman about feminism, which is what I was actually talking about.
Yeah,
He's not talking about diamonds and all this
you're
crazy
asking me
nonsense.
about my views and you're critiquing my views, so I'm going to respond to your critiques of my views.
Sure, but you've now taken off on a tangent.
Yeah, then don't critique the view if you don't want to talk about the view. I'm not just going to be like, oh, that view is false. Anyway, let's just accept that and
But
move
your
on.
view is going off on another tangent, sir. As I was saying, feminism is problematic because it tells women that they're an oppressed social class under a patriarchal society which distorts the roles that male and female are supposed to play, and this is rooted in the Marxist that men are supposed to be complementary. Evolution and biology. Evolutionary biology has made it so that a man has a role and a woman has a role. This is basic science, which you don't believe in because you support the social constructionist view, because the cultural Marxist view is that gender is a social construct, which has now led to this creation of 4,000 genders. Everyone believes that there's 40 genders.
How do you feel about the putting biological men in women's spaces and schools? Now, what's your opinion on that?
So basically this is the problem, because what it is basically now we're going away from the biological definition of sex, which is that a male is a male is someone with male genitalia, male content, male damage, female etc. And this is actually creating these problems, which you now have these men who think that women go in women's spaces, women who think that men go in men's spaces, and it's all creating this confusion, which he believes, because because he's a Marxist who supports the social constructionist of gender, which is wrong because there's no evidence that man is a social construct.
Excuse me, but how do you feel about women that advocate for these beliefs as well?
Well, yeah, because effectively, you know, being anti-feminist is not being anti-women. We're pro-women, but we're against an ideology that tells women that they're being oppressed. And, you know, when you tell women that they're being oppressed, you're not only turning women into a victim class, you're turning women against men. And this is very bad for women because it makes women think that they're being oppressed rather than teaching women that they should actually be empowered, love ourselves, work with men, work together, and not be hating anybody, and basically be all coexisting in love and harmony and fairy tales and rainbows.
So how do you feel about for example, the sexual freedom that's called sexual liberation?
Well, I generally say that sexual liberation is not the same as feminism, because actually a lot of feminists disagree with sexual liberalism, because a lot of feminists say things like all sex is rape and we live in a rape culture. I mean, I do think as well that rampant promiscuity is not good for society, but I don't really go into that too much because it's a complicated area. But yeah, a lot of feminists don't support prostitution, don't support pornography, and you know, a lot of feminists say that this, you know, they talk about things like the male gaze, they say that women are being objectified. So the sexual liberalism argument is very complicated when you start to look at it, because there'll be a lot of feminists who disagree with it. So I really just try and just talk about things like vote, equal pay, because I'm not against individual lifestyle choice. I think what people do in their private lives is their private lives. I think it's just a problem when you say that men and women should be fighting against each other. That's the main problem I have, really.
Do you think, are you okay with no-fault divorce?
Well, that's a problem, isn't it? Because the thing is, with no-fault divorce, because I have a friend who actually suffered divorce, and what with no-fault divorce, you're basically saying that divorce, you could just get a divorce. But actually, this is bad because a lot of women are harming men in the courts now. For example, a lot of men are losing money, a lot of men are losing their rights to see their children. So, because, you know, when two people get married, you're making commitment, right?
Yeah. For better or for worse, or better as part.
That's how it's supposed to be. And, you know, no-fault divorce, I mean, because really, you know, I don't think you should get a divorce without a reason. Because if you made a legal binding contract that you're gonna, this is your husband and wife, and you say, oh, we can just get a divorce for any reason, that's kind of negating the idea of marriage, isn't it? So I think no-fault divorce is very, very, I don't think that, you know, I think people should really, I think what it is, people should really think before they get married.
Yes,
You should just get married.
I think no-fault divorce is basically trying to solve a problem with creating another problem.
Yes.
The reason 70% of women are living relationships. Just because they do it in a wrong way and they try to blame men for something that they haven't done and frame them, doesn't mean that we should just let them go and let everyone just divorce all the time. Because actually having a feminine career by being a mother and providing a legacy for your family, that is as well a career. You still have to manage your family. You're still in a supervision position. You're still a leader. You're still an educator. You still do the same things. But if you're pursuing a career as a teacher, you're just teaching someone else's kids instead of your own. If you're pursuing a managerial position, you're just managing other people instead of your own. So being a mother or a wife, it's still a job and it's still a career that can be chosen by women. But as you advocated in your paper, it's being denied from us. That we can pursue that kind of level of career. And I think, personally, I think it's even more important if you provide a legacy for your family and you make the family as all together one of the greatest family in a city, for example, right? There are ways to achieve success and greatness in a very feminine way that does not require us going and doing something that we're told to do. My problem with feminism is that it puts all women in the same bag, and once you're out the bag, you're not great and you don't have a career or whatever.
And the phrase, there are only men and women, do you, for example, believe that people can be trans?
No, well, the thing is, gender dysphoria is a medical condition. But even if you're trans, say, you're still either say you're either a trans man or a trans woman. So if you're suffering from gender dysphoria and you decide to undergo a medical transition, you're transitioning either to become the opposite sex. Like there's not another sex, it's still man or woman.
But like, for example, a friend of mine, he's biologically female. And biologically, yes. But he is very clear about himself, he knows himself well, and he is male, however you want to call it. Spirit is a bad word, but like...
How old is he?
He is, I think, 18 now.
Sure, so there are people, yes, there are people who do suffer from dysphoria, who believe that they're the opposite sex, sure. But the thing is as well, the problem is this is now being made into a big thing, and it's really not healthy, because actually you've got to ask yourself, why would somebody think that that's something other than, like, why would, you know, I think that I'm, like, it almost doesn't make sense. Like, how can I be thinking I'm something other than the sex I'm born into?
Well, because gender is in
but
many
you've got to ask yourself, why, like, do you think, what I'm trying to say is this normal? Right, it doesn't make sense. Like, how can you be born? I'm born as a female. How can I be thinking that I'm something else? Like, why is this happening? I think people have a right to think something. You've got to ask yourself, it's a problem.
Yeah, they're right. But it's just the fact that, and we're respecting everything you're saying, but we don't feel that the respect, the common sense is coming back the other way.
I think there's just a lot of misunderstanding going on.
It's all the news, and social media. They're calling, you know, they're saying that we're whatever, or calling out all kind of isms. We you know.
I understand.
You know.
What is meant by the phrase "gender is a social construct" is that a lot of things are traditionally male and traditionally female.
It's not traditional, it's evolution.
It's just like the genes are different. The genes, bro.
Yeah, I understand. But many people, like I've gotten asked the question, oh, are you one of those trans people because you have long hair? So many times, I'm just annoyed. And that's stupid. And
that's people trying to insult you.
See, this is happening now, because actually, in the 1980s...
That's the brainwash people from this side, because there's a whole movement, an anti-movement now, of this like super masculine guy, countering, but that just happened in the last year. For 4 years...
why this is stupid as well, because in the 1980s, right, you had musicians like Prince, David Bowie, but they were not transgender. They were like, you know my hair. People think this means that I'm a left. This is a fashion thing. But do you not see? But do you not see how a lot of the non-binary transgender bullshit is actually causing that? Because in the old day, like 10 years ago, you're just a guy with long hair. Now you having long hair means that you're a woman.
And why make it such a big argument? Why make it such a big thing?
Exactly.
It's because to divide people.
Exactly.
Why just make it this little argument that's going on in these small channels? Why make it this national, international thing going on? It's because to make it a big thing on purpose to divide people even more.
Absolutely.
It's all about division and not uniting people, because that's the only power we have.
Partially, you've actually just said my point, and the thing is, I've never gotten asked, oh, are you one of those transgender people, by a person that actually informed themselves about the LGBTQ scene.
But the LGBTQ stuff is trying to say that personality is a gender.
No, they're not. That's okay. Sorry. I mean, there are parts to everything. But for example, people will.
Sorry.
If I color my nails, put on nail polish, there will be people who tell me, oh, don't do so feminine things. And those people will never, not a single time, come from those movements, but will always be people that are like, male people should behave male, female people should behave female, and because of all that and all that pressure, it's so useless. Because just let people be who they are, and that is essentially all that the LGBTQ movement, all acceptance movements, that is what they're trying to accomplish.
They're not living in that. It's hilarious.
Do you understand what
Sorry, what was your point again?
So my point is really what this lady is saying, that feminism drives women and men against each other, that it means that women stop respecting men, that it makes women and men not really working together. That's really the thing.
What's your opinion on things like pair bonding and its connection with casual sex? Do you think that the more casual sex we have, the less ability we'll be able to actually love people? Because I think it's different with certain types of people.
It is. I mean, yeah, of course. If you look at statistical evidence, then yes, of course. However, so yeah, obviously, statistically speaking, yes, there is evidence to support the fact that, yeah, the more sexual partners a woman has, the harder it is for her to maintain a long-term relationship. However, you can say that, but then you can also say, well, if we say things like that, we've got an entire generation of young women who have had a lot of casual sex, so you can't really then say, because it's like, well, what are you going to do? Because at some point, those women are going to want to have serious relationships, and we can't just turn around and say, oh, well, they're nothing. We actually have to say, well, actually, how are we going to solve this problem? And I think the way to solve this problem is by, first of all, teaching people that sex should be meaningful. I don't think that personally, I don't think we should treat sex like it has no meaning. I think we should actually start to make sex have a meaning again and treat sex like something that it should be respected. But there's got to be a way to do that without saying, oh, don't have sex with marriage, because that won't end up with having to sign a contract before having sex or something. But you're right as well, it is different for different people. Because some people can have sex with like loads of people, but they're still okay, and some people have sex with like 2 people. And
I do think like some people are just some people are just having sex for the wrong reasons.
Oh, they are.
And, I think we need to bring
addicted personalities, and now the big cameras coming on me.